Okay, if there are no changes to the agenda, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will go ahead and second. So no changes to the agenda. It has been moved by Director Cardenas, seconded by myself. No changes to the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Are there any public comments? And I believe we do. Mr. Mark, you are up. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you.
So good morning.
Recording in progress.
Morning.
My name's Mark Monon. I'm on the board of directors of the Altoa Water District. We're right in the heart of Orange County by the old Altoa Air Base. Director Perez, I love your hat. I got to get one of those. Very nice. I'm here for CASA, the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, but I've been dying to come to one of your meetings. And I just wanted to tell you, a guy over in Newport Beach I really believe in the Salton Sea and everything that you do. So I just wanted you to know that there's other people around the state that really think what you do is very important. I've been on many boards in Orange County. I'm a pilot, was on the airport commission. So if there's anything that I can do to support this agency in the future, please let me know, because I really believe in the Salton Sea and your agency. So I got to get back to CASA for all the things going on over there, but I did want to take this opportunity to tell you thank you for everything you do and get to meet everyone. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. It was appreciated to meet you.
Thank you.
At this point in time, do we have any public comments online?
One, Madam President.
Okay.
Miss Sinclair, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yep, is that Larissa?
It is. Hi. So, do I need to introduce myself? I do.
Yeah.
Good morning, and my name is Larissa Sinclair. My husband and I live in North Shore, and we regularly participate in these. Sorry, we can't be there in person, but I have to let you know I'm coming to you live from the top floor of the yacht club, and I'm looking at the sea right now. So today, my comment is going to be more directed to the long-term planning and community engagement aspect of what you guys are doing. The longer I live here, I'll just say, I know a lot of the current efforts they understandably prioritize the shoreline restoration, but I think it's important that planning also starts to consider the broader landscape that's tied to ancient Lake Kauai. It's not an accident that the sea is here. I think we need to stop with that narrative as well. It's man's accident, but for 12,000 years there's been a sea coming here, and as a result, I'm more and more seeing these thousands of years of cultural and natural history kind of barely hanging on by a thread. So in North Shore specifically, just up from the yacht club, I've been noticing a lot of freshwater mussels and seashells. I've never seen so many around the sea, and I've been a lot of places around the sea. And not to mention the yacht club itself is an underutilized historic and cultural asset that we have here along a major transportation corridor. But it just feels it's so disconnected from the broader restoration engagement conversations. So in line with that, these areas are also becoming increasingly impacted by OHVs. I think basically this is a call to say, is there a way we can, stop calling, start including the shoreline instead of shoreline out, that should extend beyond where the ancient shoreline you can see, because I think all of this is important to protect. And in terms of community engagement, I think from my experience working on cultural and historical preservation projects abroad, public engagement always improves when people see that a place is being cared for comprehensively and not just scientifically and ecologically, but culturally and spiritually in the case of Lake Coia. So yeah, I just main takeaway is I hope the authority can continue encouraging like strong coordination and accountability with that in mind, not just like what's in the sea. Because I think long-term restoration depends on shared responsibility and not fragmented oversight. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else?
Yes, we also have Chance Wilcox.
Okay, and then before you go, Chance, I'd be remiss to say, but Larissa did leave her comments for 3 minutes, but I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Comments for 3 minutes. So, are you there, Chance?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, good morning, board members. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Chance Wilcox. I live in Morongo Valley, and I direct the California Desert Program for the National Parks Conservation Association. Our association was formed for over 100 years ago, advocate for the protection of our national park. Our organization was also part of the large coalition that pushed for the passage of Prop 4 to secure billions of dollars for sustainable, reliable water supply projects and funding towards Salton Sea restoration. And we are still committed to monitoring and kind of watching for reliable water supply projects that would help defend our desert water. We have previously participated in your meetings to share information with you regarding the proposed Cadiz groundwater mining project, and I just wanted to share a significant update on that issue. The Cadiz project is also known as the Mojave Groundwater Bank, and Cadiz Corporation proposing the project is also known as the Fenner Gap Mutual Water Company. Cadiz hasn't been built, permitted, or financed because it would offer communities an unreliable water supply from the mining desert groundwater in one of the driest places in North America. In November last year, Arizona's Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, also known as WIFA, made a big decision regarding Cadiz. WIFA reviewed several big water importation projects to finance with the nearly $400 million in taxpayer funds it has available. And WIFA looked at a desalination, recycling, aquifer recharge projects to finance in return for access to exchanged water. And when the board met in November last year, WIFA advanced all of them. But one project that did not make it past the starting blocks was the application for Arizona to finance and develop the Cadiz project. California desert tribes that call this region their traditional territories, specifically the Fort Mojave Indian Tribe and Chemehuevi Indian Tribe, informed WIFA of their decades-long opposition to Cadiz. And WIFA board member David Beckham was explicit in response, stating, quote, "That one's over, we're not doing that one," quote. If a state desperate for water will not touch your project, it's a serious red flag. But it's also not surprising. Pushback to the Cadiz scheme has come from all areas ranging from our U.S. senators and California legislators to desert tribes and the public. Over the past 5 years, Cadiz has posted an average net loss of $31 million each year. Arizona's decision sends a clear message that aligns with California's decades-long approach on Cadiz. Even in extreme drought, responsible officials reject false solutions and will not gamble with taxpayers' money. I know this wasn't a specific agenda item for you all today, but as we are all in this together to find innovative solutions for the Salton Sea, I just wanted to provide this update that really shows that Cadiz is not the solution. So thank you for the opportunity to share these updates.
Thank you, Chance. Appreciate that.
7 seconds is fair.
Yeah. Good job. Is there anybody else, Lisa?
Not at this time.
Okay, and then just for the record, can we please show that Martha is present? Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, do we have any board member comments? Speak now, forever
Not
hold
at
your
this
peace.
time. Not online.
Not online, okay. All right, we're gonna move right along. We are gonna now move to the consent calendar. Actually, before I have a motion to approve it, I would like to flag that we need to change the minutes, the location. Wasn't that the North Shore Fire Station for that meeting? I need you to go back and double check that. And then also on the SSA register, it shows on there on November 6th, 2025, It shows that IED paid their 200,000, and in the memo it says FY26 member contribution, and then it's also again in the register December 12/1/25. So it's in there twice. So my question is, why is it in there twice? I mean, I just don't want you to think you have extra money when maybe you don't, or maybe the memo's incorrect.
I'll have to take a look at that. I don't have that report from me, Madam President, but I can get you an answer on that. Certainly, we did receive payment. I don't know if Janice is online, but we did receive payment. Let me pull up the report. Give me just 1 second. If you could repeat the reference locations where you're seeing it, that would help me. You're seeing it.
I should have wrote the page number down, but it's where the register, where it has the, the registers for the month.
Yep.
The first one was 11/6/25.
11/6/25. Yep.
And then it shows 200,000, and it says in the memo FY26 for member contribution.
Yep. And you're showing it
And
again.
then show it
12/1.
again 12/1. So the following month it shows it again, because I think that might affect your cash balance.
That is correct. And I will connect with our accountant and report back to the board, because that is correct. We only received one payment.
Okay. So if any... You are not funny. Ryan is not funny today.
You know what? I think
Or-
that I believe that is misreporting. I think that's Imperial County. Now that I'm looking at it, I believe that's Imperial County.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to flag that in case there was a problem. So as long as the location for the minutes are changed and both of those items are addressed, then I have no problem. If anybody wants to make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. Imperial Irrigation District, Alex Cardenas will go ahead and make that motion, subject to the comments that were provided by our chair.
I will go ahead and second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, wait. We have to do roll call. Martha's online.
Martha's online.
Beg your pardon.
Very good.
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Secretary Singh,
Yes.
Treasurer Morales, Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Cardenas,
Yes.
Director Kelly.
Yes.
Madam President, motion passed.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to the renewal of the annual audit. Davis Farr, and I believe he is online.
Yes, Mr. Foster is here to present our annual audit, and we welcome him as our new principal contact with the Davis Farr firm. Mr. Farr, you should be
Oh,
able to.
wait. Time out. Did Vice,
No, not my.
did Morales, did she get, was she?
Is she on the roll call?
On the roll call?
Maria.
Maria?
So sorry. My apologies. My apologies.
Well, we might want to ask her if she says aye or nay. Just for,
Yeah, she's not being called on the roll call.
Absolutely apologize.
Sorry. My
Yeah.
apology.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving back to the audit.
Morning, everyone. Hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. First, I just wanted to introduce myself to the board. My name is Jonathan Foster. I'm a partner with Davis Farr. Due to California state law, there is mandatory partner rotation after 6 years. So you may have been used to Shannon Ayala presenting in previous board meetings, but due to that mandatory partner rotation, we rotated to myself for the current year. I have prepared a brief PowerPoint to share the results of the audit, and it is asking me to replace the current share. Is that okay?
Check the
Yes.
IT guy. Go ahead.
Yes.
Try it. That seemed to work. Do we see it?
See it? Okay, great. Okay, so this is the presentation of the audit results, the Salton Sea Authority for the fiscal year June 30, 2025. So as part of our audit, we issue an audit opinion. This year, I'm happy to report we issued an unmodified audit opinion. An unmodified audit opinion means as auditors, we did not have to make any modifications to the opinion, and this is the highest level that you can receive. There is a new paragraph within that audit opinion titled Emphasis of Matter, and that is due to a new accounting standard that was required to be implemented, which I'll explain in a further slide. In addition to the audit opinion, we issued an internal control letter, and I'm happy to report we did not have any deficiencies or non-compliance to report. Our third letter that we issue is titled Summary of Audit Results, where we just communicate the timing, the scope, and significant areas of the audit to the board. I did include a slide just to demonstrate to the board this new paragraph that I was referencing. So this emphasis of matter. What I do anytime we include a new paragraph in the audit opinion, I just want to point out it's not an item of concern. It is required language. Anytime there's a significant audit standard that has to be implemented, we communicate that within the paragraph, and we communicate to the board that our opinion is not modified with respect to this matter, which is the highest level that you can receive. I just wanted to speak briefly on our areas of audit focus. So our standard audit approach includes testing on material assets and liabilities and testing of revenues and expenses. So at a high level, what does that mean? It means, for example, the cash in the bank that's reported within your financial statements. We reach out directly to your financial banking institutions and or the county and get the information directly from them. So we do not solely rely on the records of the authority, but we do reach out to banking institutions to corroborate the amounts reported within your financial statements. Secondly, as I mentioned previously, there was the implementation of a new accounting standard titled GASB 101, Compensated Absences. And I've got a slide after this to demonstrate how the accounting changed before and on a go-forward basis, how that is going to be different. Lastly, as part of the audit, we did become aware of a significant event regarding the notification of withdrawal of Imperial Irrigation District. I did want to point out to the board that the fiscal impact will be evaluated in future years because it's not effective until June 30, 2026. So compensated absences surrounds leave balances relating to vacation and sick leave. Previously, you were only required to report any potential cash outflows with separations from an employee. The accounting standard changed the accounting over this, meaning you must take into account any potential cash outlays plus any time used in the future. And the third part of this new standard is adding in applicable taxes. So on a go-forward basis, all government agencies must account for anticipated sick and vacation leave used by employees and not simply account for potential outlay on cash separation. I did include a few slides on the significant changes or items of significance I did want to communicate to the board. I've included a screenshot of your statement of net position, otherwise known as your balance sheet. In the previous year, the Salton Sea Authority reported a deficit in net position, essentially negative equity. This year that flipped, you have a positive net position. The main change was in prior year, you had cash on hand that wasn't available to be recognized as revenues. Now that that has been able to be recognized by the authority, your balance sheet shows a positive total net position, which is good, meaning you have positive equity in the authority. And I do like to include some communications to board members of significant accounting footnotes. Your significant footnote long-term liabilities, I've included a screenshot which communicates the balance of your compensated absences, which is sick and vacation, and your lease payable office. I did want to point out that your compensated absences doesn't necessarily mean it's a cash obligation of the authority. So due to the accounting standard, that balance is a combination of potential cash outlays upon separation, plus anticipated use of sick and vacation leave, plus applicable taxes. And then the lease payable is the remaining of the term on the lease. And I did just want to point out that any changes to the lease in future years will result in changes of this. So sometimes when people review the balance sheet, they see debt on the books. But if you remember a couple of years back, there was a new accounting standard that required all government agencies to record these long-term leases as a debt on the books. So lastly, I did just want to report that finance staff was prepared for the audit and responsive to our inquiries. There was proper implementation of the new accounting standard, GASB 101, and the result of all this put together was an unmodified audit opinion, which again is the highest level that you can receive. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions that the board may have.
The only question I had when I went over it and was looking at it was, Patrick, you need a vacation. Lisa, you need a vacation, when I saw how big that number was, right? Is that what that was? I'm assuming that you guys haven't taken vacation. Anyway, I know. Accrued, yes, accrued vacation.
So
sick
the
days.
board will be happy to know that my daughter now lives in Italy, and I plan to use some of that vacation.
Okay, good. Good.
Get them off our books.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, good job, Mr. Farr. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. I just want to say I appreciate working with Patrick and the new accounting staff there.
Welcome aboard, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, does anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Excellent, Mr. Morales. Does anybody want to make a second? I will make a second. I'm just seconding all day today. So it has been moved and seconded to approve the annual audit review. All those in favor, well, we need roll call vote, please.
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Secretary Singh,
Yes.
Treasurer Morales,
Yes.
Director Perez,
Yep.
Director
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Moreo.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. We are going to move on to the Coachella Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District presentation. Mr. Jeremy.
I'd like to introduce this item briefly, Madam President. You know, as part of the work we've been doing over the last couple of years, identifying and understanding the health concerns at and around the sea, I never considered vector control as part of that matrix until I ran into Jeremy a couple months back, and he was sharing with me the challenges that he's experiencing as a result of those changes, and I thought it would be helpful for this board and the community for him to come in and share. So thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
You might want to get close to the mic.
Aaron, can you this one right here?
Yeah.
All right, I can do that. And then also, Lisa, the presentation needs to come back up. Yeah. While we're waiting for the presentation, just let you know about myself. I've been at the district since 2008. My background is medical entomology. I went to the Ohio State University to get my master's degree, just in case there's any Buckeyes here. But I'm a transplant. I'm from California. Went to UC Santa Barbara, Gaucho, studied marine biology. I loved Jacques Cousteau growing up, but there's no jobs to do that. Jacques Cousteau had that tied up. So mosquito control was the next best thing. I started part-time as a student at UC Santa Barbara with the Santa Barbara Mosquito and Vector Control District, working part-time. And from there, that was nice. I had county keys, so I could drive up to the beach and eat my lunch. So that was a perk of the job, but I got bit by mosquitoes every now and then. Anyways, been at the district since 2008. I've overseen our lab operations. I've overseen our operations, and 10 years ago, this is my 10th year as general manager. And I plan to be there unless the board decides they don't want me to come to work. But I really enjoy the district, enjoy what we do for protecting public health here in the valley. But yeah, I did meet with to Pat and also Treasurer Joseph last week to kind of talk about some of the concerns that the authority has, but also to talk about some of the challenges that vector control has around the Salton Sea. So that's my purpose here today, is to give you a background on that. And as soon as that presentation, I do have my laptop, but I'm thinking, well, here we go. Yeah. No, they got it. We're good. That's it. Yes. I could do interpretive dances. I've done that before, but this is better. All right, and I think the clicker will work. Let's hope so. All right. While I'm stalling, we were formed in 1928. Our centennial is coming up very soon, so you'll probably seen from the district we have an ad hoc centennial committee put together, have great trustees and also staff that we're working to really commemorate that time. I'd like to thank the water district for bringing the water to the valley. That gave us some business. Was when then we got started a little bit after the city water district.
It's not working.
It's I don't know. No.
Listen, I enjoy this pivot, sir.
So yeah, so let me tell you about the district. I know the presentation in my head. Okay, there we go. It's moving. We have a very large district. We're one of the largest districts land-wise by most vector control agencies in California. There's about 60 of us in California. We cover 2,400 square miles. Stretches up into the Santa Rosas all the way into Joshua Tree. We don't really do any work up there. I don't know what the forefathers had in their mind when they drew that boundary, but the lion's share and majority of our work falls along the valley floor from Whitewater, Desert Hot Springs, all the way to the Imperial County line, essentially at Salton State Park. And we cover all the, there we go, we're working now, 9 cities and all the county, all the unincorporated areas of the county. We are a special district, so I have 11 bosses. We have 9 trustees that are appointed from each of the cities, and then we also have that are 2 that are appointed by Supervisor Perez at our districts. We have 11 total, and they serve at 2 to 4 year terms based on the appointing body. Our mission is protect public health from mosquitoes and vector-borne disease, and really the biggest vector, which is in our profession, an arthropod, an insect, a tick that can transmit a disease from one living thing to another, is the mosquito. It's no surprise, it's worldwide, the biggest impact on public health. And our second biggest programs is the red imported fire ant. Back in the early 2000s, California, we had the red imported fire ant was imported to California. The CDFA tried to come in and eradicate it. They ran out of money and it didn't work. And so we put out a benefit assessment to the public. They voted to fund that benefit assessment, so we added that as part of our program. Now, just pretty much for the rest of the conversation, we'll be talking about mosquitoes. We have 15 species of mosquitoes in the Coachella Valley. Not all mosquitoes transmit disease. Some are pests, nuisance, some might not even bite humans. The ones that we do have that do transmit disease, unfortunately, are some of the best vectors known to science. Culex tarsalis, which is that mosquito in the bottom left. They may all look the same, but they're different. Culex quinquefasciatus. Before Aedes aegypti, the Asian tiger mosquito, the yellow fever mosquito, Asian tiger mosquito, it's a close cousin. Before that got to California, that Culex quinquefasciatus was the mosquito that was buzzing around your ear when you were trying to sleep at night. It's called the southern house mosquito. It likes to come inside. Not all mosquitoes come indoors. Culex tarsalis, though, is the encephalitis mosquito. It is one of the best vectors of mosquito-borne disease there is in North America, and we have a lot of it here, unfortunately. In Aedes aegypti, like I mentioned, I won't talk too much more about this, but if you've been bitten on the elbows and the ankles lately when you're trying to sit in your backyard trying to enjoy the nice cooler weather of the desert, this is the culprit that has unfortunately spread from San Diego to Shasta County, and it's keeping mosquito and vector control districts very busy. And one of our biggest things is pushing public engagement and education. So because that mosquito is breeding in your cups and your buckets in your backyards, and we can't get into everybody's backyard. So we're really pushing for community action on that. But that's another talk. Why are these mosquitoes important? As early 2000s, West Nile virus made its way across North America, and the mosquitoes that we have here in the desert, Culex tarsalis, is a great vector of West Nile virus, and that is the biggest risk to people throughout our valley for mosquito-borne diseases. Its natural cycle is birds. Birds are the reservoir. They hold that virus. When they land or when they're roosting at night, mosquitoes bite them, they can pick up that virus, or if mosquitoes have it, they can pass it on to those birds. Horses can get very sick from West Nile virus, so if you have horses, you have vaccinations for that. The people, there's really no vaccine for it, and it's just education and prevention. So that's the cycle, and it tells a story of why this area is so important. Our district has a long history of working with UC Davis, UC Riverside. A lot of research has been done looking at arboviruses and mosquitoes because we're on the Pacific Flyway. The Salton Sea is a beautiful thing and also a habitat for the birds to take a rest. And when they rest and when they fly in from South America and Mexico on their way through California and beyond, they sit and rest and they get bitten by our local mosquitoes. And when those birds come through, if they're carrying viruses, they can transmit them to our local mosquitoes, and that can start that transmission cycle. So that's why the Salton Sea, from the standpoint of mosquito control, is very important because it's an area where you have, and I'll talk about in a second, where you have the vector and you have the host there in a nice spot, time and space. And it's no surprise to, I'm sure, this body, Salton Sea is shrinking, and as it's shrunk, in my time at the district back in 2008, there was mosquitoes, but not like there is today. There's actually more mosquitoes as the sea has receded, and I'll show you why. But these are that area, the shoreline, and everything I'm really talking about today is the North Shore, across there all the way to the West Shore. That's where we spend a lot. That's what I call the shoreline and the work that we do. And where that shrinks this is one of our biggest headaches. Where that's green, that's water out there. That's the Grant agricultural channel that runs into the sea. At one point in time, all those channels dumped into the water body, and it wasn't a big issue. We had pickleweed marshes here and there, but as the sea has receded and as these agricultural inputs have not been able to get extended, it creates these wetlands. And so wherever you see green is where water is flowing, and all that area on Grant, because that's one of our biggest sources, is where we spend a lion's share of our time controlling mosquitoes, those mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus. And also we have another virus called St. Louis encephalitis, which is very similar to West Nile virus, but doesn't have an impact on horses as much. But that's and so in a perfect world, in a dream for me, all the channels get extended, but I know there's a lot of challenges to getting those channels extended to reach that ever receding shoreline until something is done. In the meantime, we're here. We're a well-funded agency, and we have the staffing and the ability to do our best at controlling the risk there. And as I mentioned, thinking about that big green area, we have the mosquitoes there. We have the pathogens there because those birds bring it or have it there. The susceptible vertebrate hosts in that case would be the birds, and they're all in the same place and same time. And we have all those factors for when it comes to vector and vector-borne diseases. You have infections. Unfortunately, very rarely do we have reported cases of West Nile in the valley, but I would say it's very underrepresented too, because most infections of West Nile are very mild. So what do we do to control that? We have integrated vector management. We have a testing lab at our district. Our district headquarters is in Indio. We do vector surveillance, so we're out there catching mosquitoes on a weekly basis. We're doing disease surveillance during the virus season, essentially daily. So we collect mosquitoes. By midday, they're identified, and we're testing those in our labs to know by the afternoon what's going on. Quality control and research, we have biologists, PhDs on hand. We work with UC Davis, Riverside, USDA over the years to assess our programs. Vector control, physical control, biological control, and chemical control. The best way is to get rid of the water. Unfortunately, that's one of the hardest things to do. But biological control, we're using mosquito fish. We're developing sterile insect technique to get at these Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. And then chemical control. Fortunately, in mosquito control, especially in California, we have a lot of good tools focused at controlling the mosquito larvae in the water. And once they get out of the water, it's a little bit trickier. It's not as effective, but we do have some tools to do that. Community partnerships, we're ready to work with people to eliminate these places that mosquitoes breed, and our public outreach team has expanded not only in working with the community, but also getting into the classroom, because I'm hoping that every student here in the Coachella Valley will know once they get actually through our program in their classroom, to go home and dump and drain water, because it really is going to take a community partnership. If you have curiosity of what we do and why we do it, all of our response plans are on our website. That QR code will take you to our mosquito-borne virus surveillance and emergency response plan. That's based off a state document that we've personalized for the beautiful desert here, because we're a unique area. And it really tells us how we operate. That area that's in the red area and those numbers that are a little bit harder to see at a distance are all mosquito traps. And those mosquito traps, again, are set weekly and bi-weekly, and they monitor the mosquito population around all these areas where we have known sources. To give you an idea of the types of the numbers of mosquito, unfortunately, the biggest line on that line graph, the bottom of that graph is weeks of the year. The numbers are on the average numbers of mosquitoes per those weeks. And the biggest line on there is Culex tarsalis. That's that mosquito that's coming out of those wetlands from around the Salton Sea. And the biggest health impact in that area for sure, but not for the whole entire Coachella Valley. If you look at over time, we've been monitoring the sea for many years. Like I mentioned, we started that effort with UC Davis. Again, that's average number of females per trap from those starred traps. That's the North Shore area. And that's the year 2000 all the way to 2020. And you can see, even as the sea is becoming less of a sea, the mosquitoes are continuing to grow in numbers. And so that's causing us more and more work. Same thing, if you move up a little bit, up towards the Lincoln and Johnson areas, where we have also some duck clubs still holding on, which, again, if they could go away, I would appreciate that as well. But as you can see, for the same amount of time over those years, you see a bigger blip actually on both of those. If everyone remembers, from 2012, we had a major flooding event in the East Coachella Valley that kept, unfortunately, flooded a lot of people's properties and homes, but also kept us busier that year. And the numbers and mosquitoes also showed that. And it's a little more apparent on the last slide, but I forgot to point that out. So those are the mosquitoes. Year over year, virus activity fluctuates over time. Has to do with the birds that we have, their herd immunity, or birds, just like humans, become immune to infections, and so that varies through time. And so based on what's going on in our bird population and what's going on with mosquitoes, the amount of virus activity can change through the years. But you can see on this, in June through October, on this table is some of our most active times of the year for virus. We have in blue West Nile virus, and then St. Louis encephalitis is another mosquito-borne virus. And you can see that occurs and shifts over time. But where it says total region, the valley total is for Desert Hot Springs to the Salton Sea State Park. The total for that region is just around the shoreline, where you can see that majority of our virus activity comes from these wetland areas that line the Salton Sea. To give you an idea of amount of time, it's essentially to run those traps that we work down there, it's essentially a full-time person's job. We run 31 traps. It takes roughly 8 hours of driving to get down there from Indio and back. It takes 20 hours a week to identify those traps, and it doesn't account for then the virus sampling that we do. So any of those mosquitoes that we take that are Culex tarsalis or Culex quinquefasciatus, we put into samples. Those are $22 a piece. So roughly for last year, we tested over 2,000 samples from around the shoreline, and that's a tune of about $44,000. And then we use a lot of dry ice. Dry ice, mosquitoes find you and me through when we respire. We have respire. It's been a long week. CO2 that comes out as we exhale. And that's how they find us at a distance. And so we use dry ice to draw them to our mosquito traps that we have many of. To give you an idea, when we do respond to a positive mosquito sample, we have all of our data that's withheld in a mobile GIS system. And so that center of that circle is bullseyes on our mosquito trap that went positive. And so if, for example, we got the traps collected today, we had them positive, I had a positive here by this afternoon. My team is working together, identifying the sites that we have, and this is actually the West Shore area. All the known sites we know of, what's the status of those sites? Some sites are always doing something. Some are, maybe the other year having mosquito breeding. So if we have a positive sample, if we're at a point where we're actually having an outbreak, we're out there tonight, but most likely we'll have the plan in place, and then when the technicians come in the next morning, they're out in the field checking all those sites and doing the control. And we're also then informing the public, posting the areas, and also getting that information out so people can protect themselves from mosquito bites. What we've developed quite well in the last 3 to 4 years is our drone program. We have, I'm really thrilled with the work that our staff has done. We have a 3-person team, a UAS coordinator and 2 UAS applicators. We have a total of about 6 drones that we use. Some are for aerial photography around the shoreline. And then we have 4 to 5 actually application drones that make our applications to control the mosquito larvae. We've used helicopters as well around the sea. Unfortunately, our local operator, I think, has retired. But we do have there's not many helicopter pilots in Southern California that do applications. So our closest one now that we work with comes out of the San Diego area. But our drone team was put together to replace some of the footprint of a need for a helicopter. If you ever try to buy a helicopter and keep it going, it's very expensive. Drones are not cheap, but they're way easier to keep track of and maintain, and also keep in compliance. To give you an idea of some of the work that we do around the sea, this is a 5-year perspective of what we've done kind of in total. So total over 5 years for larval control. So these areas of waters of body that are holding the mosquito larvae, we treated over 15,000 acres. And these arrows or the flat lines mean it's trending up. We're treating more and more acres because there's more acres being developed by these runoffs. Labor over a 5-year period, 1.3 million. And that's either we have 5 staff that work on a routine basis around the shoreline. That's shifting more to our drone team, but our drone team is still is paid well, and the drone program just isn't a cheap program to run, but it's been effective. We spent close to $850,000 in larvicides. Helicopters, using them over the course of those 5 years is $280,000 to do the control applications just for the larval control. But the drones, the program we have now, and these are all conservative. I was pushing some of my managers to come up with some numbers pretty quick. About $600,000 on our drone program. That's drones, that's trailers, that's batteries, that's a lot of that's application equipment, and that drone work is trending up. Helicopters is trending down because our drone program is taking over that footprint. So in total, in a 5-year period, we spent about $3 million in controlling mosquitoes in the water there at the sea. From the standpoint of adult mosquito control, we only do adult mosquito control when either the numbers surpass our risk thresholds or we have a lot of virus activity that is also surpassing our risk thresholds. So over the course of the last 5 years, 177,000 acres have been treated. We do much larger areas when we're trying to knock down the mosquito population to protect public health. The labor, we do run trucks sometimes, and so that labor is for the staff, but most of our adult mosquito control comes from helicopters because we have to cover a large area over a short amount of time. Mosquito adulticides are a little cheaper, and so those are $233,000, and then helicopters, again, not cheap to use them, about $388,000 over that course of that 5-year. And I forgot to tell about my arrows. The arrows that are going back and forth, it fluctuates, especially with virus activity. Like I mentioned, what's happening with the birds and with the mosquitoes fluctuates from time to time. And so really all these numbers on this slide, it's variable. And if I go back, labor is pretty static. That's that yellow bar in my infographic there. Larvicides, again, the cost of that changes year to year just because we have different formulations and different types of larvicides. And depending on what's going on in the water body, we make a selection on the best larvicide to do the job. So I want to make sure I covered that. And then lastly, a big issue for us in public health is insecticide resistance. We have biologists on staff on a yearly basis. This time of year, we're doing bioassays in our labs, testing all our public health pesticides, in particular, the ones that control adult mosquitoes, because if we're going to make an effort to go out and make an application to prevent people from getting sick, we're making sure those products are working. Unfortunately, when it comes to mosquito adulticides, a lot of the active ingredients that are used for public health pesticides are the same ones that either private pest control can use, ag uses, or even what you pick up at a Home Depot. And so there's a lot more resistance issues when it comes to mosquito adult control. And the concern for us is that pushes us to continue to develop technologies and ways to control these mosquitoes, which increases costs. So with that, I can take questions. Please dump and drain once a week around your property and make sure you meet mosquito repellent. It works. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Now, were you the one that presented previously, like a few years ago?
I think I came in, I did like a little public comment. I did, 3 minute, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember being like
I popped in.
amazed at how much information that you just don't even think about with mosquitoes. So
Yeah.
I really do appreciate this in-depth
Sure.
look at it. Okay, so when's the virus season again?
Virus seasons from March through November. Mosquito viruses are temperature dependent, and so as it warms up,
Yeah.
the viruses replicate faster and faster. But in the desert, in Imperial, really you could pick it up any time of year. But the biggest risk is that starting in March, not only for the virus, but then that's when the mosquitoes pick up.
Okay, and then just 2,400 people. Is that how many is in your department? How many is in your?
2,400 square miles is our district.
Okay.
We
How
have a
many
district.
employees do you have?
73.
73. Okay.
Yeah, and about 50 plus of those are in our operations, the actual folks going out doing the control. And then the next largest department then is our surveillance department, because they're running across the valley testing those mosquitoes and trapping them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Just one, not a question, but during our conversation that we had, Jeremy, you also mentioned the other, besides the wetlands of the Salton Sea, that the other areas that are a little more hidden are the exposed playa because the slits in the playa. So if you can touch on that.
Sure. Yeah. Over the years, and hasn't been a issue of late, but it can happen because it was actually in the West Shore area, and it's been several years. Dry areas, but had that cracked playa. And when we went out to actually look, the cracks, because the water table was high and coming back, there was water in the slits, and the mosquitoes were breeding in there. And so we used BTI, which is a bacterial protein that's very effective at killing mosquito larvae. We had to spray what it looked like we were just spraying dry land, but the product was a very fine product, and it would just basically migrate its way down into the cracks and control the mosquitoes. So even if it looks dry, it doesn't mean it is dry. And mosquitoes are very resourceful. They'll take, especially in the desert environment. Culex tarsalis, on the books, it's a freshwater mosquito. It's not a freshwater mosquito here, unfortunately. So, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Sure. Director Kelly.
Jeremy,
Hi.
thank you.
Yeah.
My question is in regards to your applications for vector control. How does it impact on the boatman bug issue?
It hasn't. Yeah, so they don't. Yeah, so if the boatmen are breeding in areas similar to the I mentioned BTI. It's a bacterial protein, and it's very specific to Culex to mosquito larvae. And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't really impact anything else in the water itself, other than midges to some extent, occasionally. But it's really focused on mosquito species. But I do have recipes for boatmen to make salsa that I found, because we were getting several years ago. We had a big issue with water boatmen, and it kind of again fluctuates from time to time. But they're just unfortunately a nuisance, but not a public health concern. But they do make a good salsa if you want that recipe. I found it.
I don't think I want it.
Yeah. Many cultures, you eat insects because they're a great source of protein. So, but yeah, I have sap on board, but eat insects. I've eaten a couple mealworms, but that's about it. Anyways.
Supervisor, you can put it on your burrito.
Yeah. There you go. No fish.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm always happy. That's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to talk about mosquitoes.
Madam President, this is a presentation, but I'd want to recognize that there are 3 members of the public who would like to comment online.
Okay. Thank you. So you better stay there, Jeremy. You might have to answer something.
Casey?
Martha, you're up.
Tom, you're able to speak?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, this is Tom Sefton. Thank you, Jeremy. Much appreciate the information, and shared a number of things I didn't know about mosquitoes. We've got a lot of wetlands that are unmanaged and forming themselves around the Salton Sea as the sea recedes, that are fed by brackish water coming off of fields. And we've also got thousands of acres of managed wetlands, particularly down in the southwest corner of the sea, that will have some ability to control things like salinity. I'd like to know what information do you have to know, and you know, and you did point this out. What is the salinity tolerance of the larval forms of these species of mosquitoes that are problematic? And you know, if out in the sea itself, you don't have so much of a problem because the salinity is extremely high. But in these wetland areas where you have brackish water, what is the limit at which these larvae are able to reproduce? And you indicated that may in fact be changing for at least one species. And the second question is, how effective are the mosquito fish in controlling mosquito population in wetland areas?
What ready in?
You speak to it.
It should turn green.
There we go.
There we go. All right, very good. Yeah, I believe was it Tom? Was Tom his name? Yeah, good questions, Tom. So for your first question, unfortunately, I don't know the tolerances of it, but what I do know from observation firsthand, Culex tarsalis, like I mentioned, is a mosquito that, I mean, with biology, there we go. Touch plate to mute. That's what I was doing. Okay, I figured it out. I gotta read the signs. Yeah, so with any biological organism, there's always the typical, but there's always the extremes. And I think with tarsalis, when given the need to, in a desert environment, you want to survive, and so you push the limits. So tarsalis is the one that I mentioned that is breeding in these brackish areas. That's typically associated with freshwater. I only know from observation. I've seen egg masses and I've seen mosquito larvae in pools, cutoff pools around the shoreline that have salt crusted around the edge. So I know that water has a lot of salt in it, and they're able to tolerate that. Yeah, it's probably unique to the valley, I would assume, but we haven't really studied it or haven't funded any research to look at that. The other question I think you had was with mosquito fish. Mosquito fish are very good at controlling anything that's on the top of the water. It might even help out with the boatmen. But they are very effective. They're a guppy. They surface feed. And another thing that we have in the desert, which is an endangered species, the desert pupfish. It's also similar in biology and ecology, and it does also would feed on mosquito larvae. But yeah, out in the sea itself, yeah, the salinity, and also that, yeah, there are other predators that are out there that could continue to eat a mosquito. So plus the water moves a lot. These areas that have wetlands, the water is stagnant or moving very slowly, and so mosquitoes could do quite well in those situations, even when there's predators sometimes. Hope that answered your question.
So we have Michael Cohen.
Michael, you're up.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the opportunity to pose a question during this presentation, and thanks very much for an excellent presentation. Just two quick questions. One, I'm curious how far these mosquitoes travel from these Salton Sea wetlands. And the second question, I don't think you mentioned, is if there's been any incidents of transmitted disease to people in the vicinity of the Salton Sea from these disease-bearing mosquitoes. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. Culex tarsalis is a mosquito. Yeah, mosquitoes vary in flight distance. Some can fly 10 miles from their source. Some will fly. Aedes aegypti, mentioned our backyard nuisance flies 150, 200 feet in its lifetime. But with tarsalis and the mosquitoes that exist at the shoreline, they can fly for miles. And so you can have mosquitoes that are breeding on the shoreline and migrate or fly into North Shore area, Mecca, and all those areas, and Oasis, all the areas that are populated around the sea. So miles, 2 to 5 miles they can do, and depending on wind, if wind is a factor, and we do have wind, that helps mosquitoes move even further, unfortunately. And as far as human cases, as of recently, we haven't had any documented cases. We don't do any human surveillance. That's all with Riverside County Department of Public Health. They give us information when we do have documented cases, whether it's a imported case of dengue or a local case of West Nile virus, which we do use. Unfortunately, when we get West Nile virus information from humans, it's it's a little bit late in the game, so we still go out and do the control. My assessment and for folks who do get West Nile, and I'm sure there's more than that are reported, unfortunately, it's usually very mild. And I think in that area in particular, our population, our constituents, access to healthcare or even seeking healthcare in Mexico probably underestimates the impact for folks in that area, unfortunately. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Do we want to go back to Martha one more time? I saw she unmuted and then she muted again.
She was.
Oh.
She had her hand.
Yeah, I didn't have any feedback.
Okay. Thank you, Martha. I don't want to skip you. Okay.
So I'd like to say that, and thank you for the presentation. I think you can see how important this data set is, and something that I certainly, working through the feasibility study and the project design and what we develop into the future, I think this is an important element to consider as part of the whole. And then it just begs the question, what else are we not thinking about that we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, just to add on to what Patrick said was, I know the California has the pleasure of having the CDC Center of Excellence housed at UC Davis and UC Riverside. Researcher Bill Walton unfortunately passed away several years ago. I know was part of helping with some of the wetland planning in the other end of the sea. But we do have a lot of resources here. So hopefully as things hopefully move forward and if treatment wetlands are in place, one, keeping the district in mind, because we're going to, the issue with Grant, it's not managed. It's hard to access. It's dangerous. That's the plus with the drone. We don't have to send people into those areas as much as possible. The drone is, unless it goes down, then we have to go get it. But it's actually increased the safety of staff and our accuracy. But managed wetlands are doable, but managed wetlands also take a lot of planning, not only in the beginning, but also that long-term maintenance of it, because they can become unmanaged very quickly if those funds dry up. But again, my pleasure to be here today. And like I said, I'm a resource for this body. Feel free to reach out whenever you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to the Colorado River Policy Platform.
Madam President, we had prepared a draft of a policy platform for this board to consider and approve that would help us to inform any comments that the authority might advance as part of the EIS process, which was underway on the Colorado River, had not at that time been released. We did seek comments from our member agencies within the Water District, and frankly, those comments were more extensive than we had anticipated. And I think it would be counterproductive at this time to try and hash through and reconcile those. I thought what would be more useful is to have Ms. Moore kind of touch on the EIS process at a high level, maybe talk about some of the things that we're doing to help ensure the success of the efforts on the Colorado River, including the work on WRDA and what we're doing on the core. We're going to be meeting and talking about the WRDA submission after this meeting, but I think for public purposes, I think it'd be good to just give her a few minutes to share that.
Perfect. And so we'll probably bring this back then, right, after taking the different agencies' comments into account. All right.
Madam Chair, before Ms. Moore jumps in, I'm just kind of curious as far as where the plane is potentially going to land, and if the ask is for a table discussion or to be at the table in terms of the Salton Sea Authority being at the table, if that's kind of what we're canvassing for when trying to raise the issue. So maybe can I just ask and inquire from Mr. O'Dowd at this point in time, before Ms. Moore jumps in, are you ultimately looking for a table setting at the Colorado River hydrology discussions, or can you maybe just cast a little bit about what your vision is and what you'll be asking the members here?
Well, I show up at any table I'm invited to.
Yeah.
But I think, since I've come on board, having been a former director of CVWD, since I've come on board with the authority, I recognize the important role that the water agencies play in these sensitive negotiations. At the same time, the Salton Sea Authority and its member agencies are all affected by the outcomes of those. And I think what we have done and what we did in the SEIS and what we're hoping to do through the EIS is make sure that community input writ large is provided to help inform the process so that impacts associated with this are responsibly considered and appropriately addressed. And I think that that's what the EIS process is for. And I actually think the work that we did on the feasibility study predates and preempts some of that and facilitates hopefully a more successful outcome. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's why we're here. So I'll turn it over to Lisa if you're ready.
Perfect.
Super. Good morning. It's afternoon here. So the draft EIS was released this week. It is
Friday.
Last Friday. The document is intended really to be an evaluation of different management guidelines for the Colorado River. This is one of a series of documents that the reclamation has prepared over the last several years to evaluate the different alternatives for managing the river. And the past documents have been kind of over the short term. This is to be over the long term. The thing those documents have in common is they have not historically really analyzed the environmental impacts for these different management options on the Salton Sea. The document most recently released by Reclamation about those longer term guidelines takes an interesting approach to the Salton Sea. There is, and you would find it in the chapter on affected environment, which is where you would expect us to be. It actually sort of essentially says that any of the different alternatives for managing the river and that would result in cutbacks to California fall within the plan, the state's long-range plan and the Corps of Engineers feasibility study, essentially positing those devices as the mitigation for whatever's ultimately adopted on the river. And so kind of dialing back in 2020, when the Salton Sea Authority worked with Congressman Reese initially to authorize the feasibility study, really the idea was to create a federal funding vehicle through which the federal government could invest mitigation funds at the Salton Sea. And, it's taken the time since then to stand up the study, to bring the state on board as a joint local sponsor, to get, we're now about up to $7.1 million for the work that the Corps is doing. And the purpose of the study really is to create a federal funding vehicle for federally funded Salton Sea projects at 65%, and we're well on our way of doing that. And so what you see in the EIS really is the Department of the Interior kind of acknowledging that work and saying, like, this is the venue for addressing those impacts. That is an argument that Patrick and I have made to the Interior Department on visits that he's had out here, that they should support the Corps of Engineers and our work in standing up that study, because it provides a way to secure mitigation for the impacts that will invariably come from the process that plays out on the river. And so you sort of see that just since I'm on that topic, we did secure, in order to keep the feasibility study going, the authority put in an appropriations request to our Senate and House members. That bill on the Senate side included $1.76 million for the Corps of Engineers to keep the study on track in FY26. That was included in the Senate bill. The House bill earlier this week released, they adopted actually that provision as well. That passed the House, is now actually pending in the Senate, is expected to pass this week. That puts us on firm footing for FY26 to have funding to keep the feasibility study on track. You will see in your memo that the Water Resources Development Act is now being formulated by Congress. That's a 2-year bill. A bill that Congress adopts every 2 years to affect policy at the Army Corps of Engineers. There are a couple language requests that we have formulated that will help ensure the study fully evaluates the impacts, the beneficial impacts that it will have on federal lands, and that it counts the benefits to public health and for our communities. There's some changes in core policy that need to be made to make sure that we can count those benefits. And so that is sort of the next legislative item. And the memo has kind of more detail on that. But I think the long and short of it from the EIS perspective is that it really acknowledges the work that the authority has done over the last 5+ years to set up a federal funding vehicle so that when the Colorado River guidelines came down the pike, as it were, in 2026, we would have a viable funding vehicle to mitigate whatever impacts may arise from this Colorado River work.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
Chair, I have a question.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see if I can just summarize what you're saying here, the intent. So it sounds to me like you're saying we know that there's going to be some impacts to the Salton Sea from these guidelines. And what we're saying is the feasibility study and the projects that might come out of that can be considered part of that mitigation. But in order for us to do that, we need the funding we're basically trying to put more pressure on ensuring that, we're kind of stacking the cards on trying to get that funding. Is that
Right.
is that the ultimate goal here? Is you're saying, hey, well, yeah, there's going to be issues, but this is the way to address it and kind of just put more pressure on that. Is that kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to do?
Yep. And so that was the hope. The reason we created it really was, you could have come to this point in 2026 and had a NEPA process and a Colorado River decision. NEPA itself won't provide. It requires reclamation to evaluate the environmental impacts of different alternatives. It doesn't mandate really anything but that consideration, right? And so we focus on NEPA somewhat, but really what we put our time into was creating this other process with a federal agency that has substantial resources and expertise to ensure that whatever happened, right, knowing that something would happen and that cutbacks were likely, we would have a federal partner with the resources to address that. And so I think what you're seeing, the fact that Interior acknowledged that in the document, I think you see the benefit of that work, right, that they actually look at that and say, yeah, that's a viable way to address these impacts. One of the arguments we make to Interior is, help us ensure that the core process stays on track, right? They have the Interior officials that we're dealing with have regular meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers officials that we deal with, and so it's really just trying to use that. The connection between what's happening on the Colorado River demonstrates really sort of why the Corps of Engineers process is so important, and that we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to complete it, to take it to the public and hear, what they think of these projects, right? And start working towards building a broader consensus around getting ultimately projects funded. Once the study is completed, we'll have to go back to Congress to get it authorized. We'll have to go back for appropriations.
Lisa,
so that's the long-term plan.
Lisa, going back to Director Cardenas' question. So, are you saying here that we would just go through the public review comment period process, or are we asking for more than that? Like, is there how are we going to embed ourselves? Is it just going through the public process of making comments, or is there something more than that?
So there is a 45-day comment period on the document that the authority can decide to comment on. We have commented in the past on the shorter range.
Sure, but so that's one
document.
option. Is there something else other than that?
With respect to the EIS, no. With respect to the WRDA legislation, which I think is a good place to focus, it's on really focusing on making sure the core piece is the most viable, that we make our investment there in terms of time and resources to
Madam Chair.
to make sure we're funding that and getting the policy right so that it results in fundable projects for the communities.
But I think it's safe to say that we haven't foreclosed the decision on commenting or not commenting. I think based on our experience with the SEIS and the success we had in advancing the feasibility study and the importance
I
of the
think
overall
we should
landscape,
comment.
we
Yeah.
think that time and energy and effort is best spent in bolting the feasibility study to the floor to make sure that it is part and parcel of how you define success.
And Director Kelly has some comments.
So I've read through the draft comment, and I agree in principle with most of the items that are there. I believe the public comment period ends March 2nd. We will not have a meeting until March.
That's right.
Unless there's something being scheduled that I'm not aware of. So I would endorse that draft plan going forward, ensuring that other voices are heard and being respective of other considerations that I don't see being consulted.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Sure.
I think Director Estrada and Supervisor Kelly are spot on. I'm trying to reduce the degree of complexity in my life, and what is before us is a comment period, and we're not ready. That's what has me concerned. So a draft EIS is out. We're on the clock, and it doesn't appear that we have a clear-cut strategy on how and when we're going to address probably the most important time in our lives. And that's responding to possible hydrology cuts that will have a tremendous impact on public health. And considering the timeline that's before us, I'm not sure how you're going to bring these membership agencies together and put a document so that the issue could be raised. So I am asking, Madam Chair, that we provide clear direction today at probably one of the most critical points in our region in terms of what we're going to do when possibly federal action is right around the corner. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I second that. So what are the next steps?
Is there a draft?
There is a draft plan.
I thought I heard there was a draft.
There is one in your backup.
And Supervisor Kelly suggested that he was okay with the draft. So it sounds like the suggestion was that we could take action on that today.
I want to comment, and I apologize for not circulating it because it wasn't my intention to move forward in this regard. We're approaching this matter in the same intentional and purposeful way we did the SEIS, and I think that I'll allow Lisa to comment. I think the real question is, with our commenting on the EIS, what do we expect to do with that, and how do we expect to realize upon that? Are we prepared to take legal action based on whatever we might frame in the EIS, or it's a question of resources and effort? And right now what we're doing is we have articulated and in our plan what we thought was a reasonable.
Director O'Dowd, I don't even think we should be talking about any legal course. We're talking about comments.
Yeah, we're talking about comments.
And we're talking about making a position statement that hopefully the feds will be responsive to and address.
Okay, are you saying that this Colorado River Sea platform is that we don't have any comments? You're saying there's comments
There's a
in
draft
our
plan in our backup.
from the Salton Sea Authority?
Yeah.
No, I don't understand. I see this letter that was in there, but this was more of a
Draft platform. Yeah, you're looking at it.
okay. Yeah, but by the time that was circulated to us, I had substantial changes I want to have that I want to have made to that. I don't want to submit it the way it is in our board packet. So I'm not prepared to move forward with that without substantial changes that are made to that.
When's our next meeting?
it's after the deadline.
All right, well, that's not gonna work then.
So we
So we're
could,
gonna
we
have to have
could,
an
if,
emergency meeting to make sure that we take care of this and make sure we get public comments and make sure we get any type of adjustments from board members. And then we're gonna have to have an emergency meeting of sorts in order for us to
So-
move this along. You heard it already from a few members here, and I agree with them. We can't wait. Unfortunately, it's in front of us. We gotta move. But I understand as well from our chairwoman what she wants to do, and maybe some of us as well. But we gotta call a special meeting and do that before they make a decision.
right.
And Patrick, I think that you're gonna have to, from all the comments that you get, you're gonna have to come up with the version that you recommend as the executive director.
Have to consolidate.
And maybe share all the different versions that you get, but you're gonna have to come up with one that you recommend,
I think that's
and
very,
then that's what we're
very
gonna have to take
achievable.
action on, and then we can have a debate on who has a problem because something didn't make it in, or
And
things like that.
And I think what we will do in that regard is, to the extent that there's, well, there obviously will be a need for a special meeting of the board to approve this. Fortunately, we can pull that together fairly quickly and circulate the information beforehand, so it should be a fairly short and expedited process.
What date would we be? You think maybe since we're here, we could just.
So let them figure it out.
Well, I think.
But that's the thing. If the public comment period ends on March 2nd, so it's going to have to be before March 2nd. So are we looking at 3rd week of February, 4th week of February? Are we going to just sit down, hash it out, and whatever we come up with at that meeting, be done with it? Because if we do that, then we can do it on either the 19th or the 26th and still make it to the March 2nd public comment. Or are we going to convene, review, then want to come back again, discuss it again, or just hash it out that day? Because if we
want
hash
to
it out
hash
that day,
it out that day.
let's do it the 26th.
Yeah.
I think the 26th is furthest enough out, and
A little earlier.
a little earlier, 19th.
Yeah, let's
that's
not wait until the exam is due.
They're true.
So if I could just to clarify a few things. So the authority has done comments that are similar, on prior documents that, from a Salton Sea perspective are not, we haven't typically gotten into, the impact of a particular interior plan for, whether it's California plan, Upper Basin plan. Really, it's just focused on highlighting the impacts to the sea and the work that we would like to see done there. And so a 45-day comment period, we're not behind. This document just came out. We have historically commented and have comments to work from. And so that is not, it's obviously work, but it is not an insurmountable task, or we're not behind. Comments can be a couple
Lisa,
pages, it
I
can be
think
letters.
we have a document in front of us, and I think we're all gonna look at it, and we're gonna give feedback to Patrick, and then Patrick's gonna consolidate that into a document that he recommends, and then we're gonna meet, and we're gonna.
That's right.
And that's
Okay.
pretty much
Does
where we're
that
at.
work? February 19th for everybody?
I think that if we can get additional comments on the draft plan within the next week and a half, we can use that as a source document to create a codified response that I think will scratch everybody's itch.
Okay,
And
perfect.
the comment could be, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, what's
Yeah.
the date again? Date?
The
19th. February 19th.
I think if I may make a suggestion, sorry, I know you attempted to land the plane,
I tried.
Madam Chair, but
I tried.
I'm by far not a subject matter expert, but we do have staff that are. So could they maybe start advancing comments to you, Patrick?
I did already, as
Right,
far
so
as the ID is concerned.
So Madam Chair is operating in an echo chamber here, so
My bad.
I'm just teasing. Sorry, well, I interrupted you, Madam Chair.
No, so we had substantial red lines, and I
Okay.
did submit a clean version to Patrick.
Okay.
But again, the document just came out, and I just got this, so anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question answered.
Okay. All right.
All right, so
19th.
can someone repeat the the motion here as to what we're doing, just to be clear and that the public understands?
We're going to reconvene February 19th, and we're going to then pass what it is, comment that we do want to send in. And then to be determined where that meeting is, or even online, you know, even if we Zoom it, that's fine. Right? Okay, perfect. All right, I don't think I need a motion.
All right.
Changing direction.
Call a question, Madam Chair.
Yes, what is it?
No, I'm just saying call a question. This is a vote. Do we need to vote on this? We should
Do we need a vote?
I think it's direction to
No,
staff.
I think we need a vote.
Okay, that's fine.
Put it on record.
That's fine. And the motion would be to direct staff to prepare.
I'll make the motion, Patrick.
That's fine.
To have a special meeting on February 19th to review the comments to be submitted under the EIS over the Bureau of Reclamation's comment period.
Second.
Got it.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to host a special meeting February 19th for comment on the EIS. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Secretary Singh?
Yes.
Treasurer Morales?
Yes.
Director Perez?
Yes.
Director Cardenas?
Yes.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Morero?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Excellent. Thank you. We are now going to move on to item E, strategic planning, governance, and restructure. I'm actually going to start this off at our agenda review. Patrick O'Dowd and Director Estrada were very kind, but they did ask if I would step down as president. I did ask them to give me some time to think about that, just because the ID is withdrawing from the Salton Sea Authority. We are not withdrawing until June. We did give extra time heads up for the Salton Sea Authority so they could put that in their budget. It is a little bit, I appreciate Director Estrada, it is a little bit of a white elephant in the room, continuing as the president. And I thought about it. I asked a couple people, and actually Alex told me to pray about it. That was the best advice I got. I had so many different pieces of advice. So I was sick this weekend, did not feel good. Monday morning, walking the dogs, that's when the clarity hits you. The clarity hits you that I really want to do what is best for the Salton Sea Authority. At one point, I thought that would be the best, stepping down. I could have done it sweetly and quietly. I would prefer that this board discuss it, and if the board decides that I do need to step down, I will do that. I want to do, again, what's best for the Salton Sea Authority. I will, just for the record, say if I don't have perfect attendance in the last 3 years, I have near perfect attendance. I have to have Lisa look it up. And it has been my pleasure to serve. I still feel I have the ability to serve, and one of the reasons I want to continue is because I really want to see the strategic plan. I want to see that through. I want to see that happen. I am very much afraid that the Salton Sea Authority will see more of its members disperse because we don't have a clear-cut plan, and I actually feel this will help keep the Salton Sea Authority together. So that's...
Madam Chair, can I make a comment, please?
Yes, please do.
Well, I appreciate your point of view to a degree. I think ultimately, obviously, your perfect attendance sounds great, and the fact that you want to see the city end. But, you know, like anything else, right? I wish you would have had a different vote. And I think that way you would have seen it to the end when it comes to the feasibility study. And I'm not exactly sure why the decision was made the way it was, and it's okay, it is what it is. What I want to do, quite frankly, is agendize this item for the next meeting so we can have a thorough discussion. It doesn't have to be during an emergency meeting in which we're going to be talking about the Colorado River and the draft and things of that nature. But I think we should have at least an agenda item the next meeting where we have this discussion thoughtfully and then figure out what people have to say. Maybe people will decide to allow you to continue to be the chairwoman, and others might say no, and we'll do a vote if we need to. But I firmly think that we should have a discussion on it, and we need to agendize it, because if not, we're violating the Brown Act.
Is that motion sufficient to do what we have to?
I mean, if the board want to agendize a special meeting, discuss that item, that's
No,
appropriate.
not
And
a
then-
special meeting, but at the next
Or a
meeting,
meeting, or
agendize
at a
this
regular meeting.
Yeah, and I would second that motion. I do think if those are the chairwoman said that she would like to have a full discussion. I think that's fair, and I also appreciate your comments, chairwoman, and but again, it is the kind of white elephant in the room. I think I myself also don't understand too much why ID decided to remove itself from the authority, and given that that's kind of what's taking place, I think it deserves a conversation about who's going to continue to lead this agency.
So, if I may, Madam Chair, the agendized item, I know we have a first and a second, and just for discussion purposes, so potentially we're looking at a item next month to address possible nominations, or are we just going to follow success? Let me stop right there. Is the agenda item, Supervisor Perez, to entertain nominations for officers?
I think so, depending on how people feel about it, right? So I think we'll have a discussion, and if people feel that it's necessary to have a vote and restructure, then we will. If people don't feel that way, then we won't need to. But I think that we should be open to the idea that it may happen. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to have the conversation. And right now, it's not on the agenda for us to have this conversation. And so we should have it, and we should do it legally.
And I want to agree with your assessment in terms of considering nomination of a chairperson as opposed to an evaluation.
No evaluation.
And then it appears that this item was agendized as a possible evaluation situation, which I'm incredibly uncomfortable with. But I believe your suggestion of bringing the item back and having a discussion around nomination, potentially of a chairperson, I think that would be more appropriate to your point, sir.
That's exactly what I'm referring to.
And that's exactly what my interpretation of your motion was, Supervisor. It's simply to have a conversation of if there needs to be a new chairperson. If there needs to be, then who that person could be. And that's pretty much it.
And the
question, at this point, if no one else has any comments.
Allow for comment. So I totally respect Gina. I know that her heart is into the Salton Sea, and I know that she wants to do the right thing regarding the people that live around it and the people that are affected by it and those that want to make use of it. But it is a conflict that it's already been known. It's cast that ID is separating from this agency, and to be the figurehead of the agency that ID is withdrawn from, we need to have somebody that's going to be long-term invested even at this moment, especially with the EIS and other items before us. And so, Gina, I wish you were still here, and I know you are.
I'm
in
still
spirit
here,
and in mind
and I will be
body
representing
today.
the Conservancy. Also, I've already been elected, so
Sure.
we will be working in hand, I'm sure, with the Salton Sea Authority and the Conservancy, which was something else I wanted to point out. So, but at the end of the day, I want to do what's best for the Salton Sea Authority. And then also one of the other things that I had thought of before, just thinking was conditional that CB Strategy would finish their work, whether I'm here or not here, because it is my belief that they're going to be shelved. They're going to be put on a shelf, and that strategic plan will not see the light of day. So I also would like, and maybe at this next meeting, I would like confirmation. If the board doesn't want to enact this strategic plan, if they don't want to do anything with it, that's fine. It's malleable. You can do what you want with it. I just think we spent thousands of dollars, and to see it shelved is a waste.
Madam Chair, I have a comment, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. We spent quite a bit of money on this. Regardless of your decision with IID, and regardless of the decision that may come forward in the future, whatever that is, at the end of the day, we took the time to pay a certain amount of funding using resources to create this strategic plan and I want to see what it has to say, and rightly so. I don't know why we would shelve it, and I don't know why anybody would be against it, to be honest with you, because it is a plan of governance as well. And people had questions about governance. As a matter of fact, I had a lot of questions about governance in case something like this would happen. So I'll be the one to state out loud and supporting what you just stated right now, Madam Chair, that we should all be looking forward to that strategic planning report, take a look at it and see what it has to tell us, and so that we can only improve the situation.
Right.
That's what it's for.
Right.
It's a living document. It shouldn't be a document that we just spend thousands of dollars on it and put it away. I don't know who's saying that, but that should not be the case. And that'd be something that'd be wrong on behalf of the taxpayer dollars.
So,
the taxpayer.
If I could, Madam President.
Yeah.
It's staff's recommendation to table the presentation. It doesn't discount the value of the work that's been done. Staff's recommendation is based on the fact that the strategic plan was developed based on the 5-member agency framework. And I think that there are a lot of things that need to be considered in developing the strategic plan for this organization going forward. So that was the basis for staff recommendation, because the fact that we're talking about governance today is a byproduct of that strategic planning effort, and there's a lot in there that informs this conversation. So whether we wrap it up and deliver a strategic plan that that doesn't reflect what this organization might look like in 3 to 6 months, I think my recommendation is we pause that work. At our next board meeting, we're going to discuss what the leadership in the organization might look like. So I think that direction, even at that time, would be more helpful than finalizing a strategic plan now based on the dynamics that are taking place. I don't think it discounts any of the work that's been done.
I'm sure we're going to have a debate here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Look, give us options. Recommendation is a recommendation. We're going to make the decision. So that's your recommendation. I don't appreciate that recommendation. I'm not supporting that recommendation. I'd rather have that report as soon as I can get it, read through it, and see what I need to do moving forward in my process as a supervisor with my colleagues up at the Board of Supervisors to see how we're going to continue to engage, regardless if it's 5 members or 4 members or even 3 members. It is still a document that we use resources for, that we should have access to, and we should be able to read through it. And there's going to be some give and take in that report. I'm sure there's going to be some great things that are going to be stated in that report that we can use moving forward. And there may be some things that we don't agree with, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So, no, I do not support that recommendation. I'd rather have that report as soon as I can get it, and then come the next meeting, maybe we make some decisions. I don't know what those decisions would be, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure I take a look at that report.
I believe CV Strategies is prepared today to make a presentation.
Well, and one thought that I have is that at minimum, you should consider, I know there's been talk about the idea of expanding membership, things like that. I don't know if that's in the report now. If it is, great. But to the extent that it isn't, those are things that I'd like to see in the report. Right? So.
And I might be speaking for them, but maybe they had a short report ready that they could give, and then they wanted board direction to go back and then present a full report coming back once they received our direction in such ideas that you just had, which is a great idea.
I think that's good.
Point of order.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and a second, and I would call for the question.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to
good for you. Good for you.
the,
Okay, and just to reiterate, the motion was made by Supervisor Perez, correct?
Correct.
And then who was this seconded by?
I believe I second the motion.
Okay, Director Estrada. To table until the next meeting.
No.
Was that agendized the conversation?
Agenda. Okay.
No, this was a different. This is not regarding the report, right? This is
no. We're going back to the beginning.
Yeah, this is.
It's agendizing the item of ID being
president
of the board. and having the full-fledged discussion at the next meeting.
And not the special meeting, but
No,
just the
at the
regular meeting.
regular
Meeting in March.
Yeah.
Okay.
And authorize action at that meeting.
And authorize action at that meeting. So we'll have to come back again. Okay. Can we have a roll call vote if there's no further comments?
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Secretary Singh,
Yes.
Treasurer Morales,
Yes.
Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Cardenas,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Moreo.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we need to make a motion on the report now so we can get it in our hands?
They're prepared to make a presentation.
All right, and with that presentation, can we also get it in our hands?
March.
Thank you.
Good. Good morning, and thank you for having us at the party and inviting us. We're prepared to. Good morning. I'm Beatrice Bldg, the Chief Operating Officer at CV Strategies, and this is Jennifer Poland, the account manager for this project. And I know you're familiar with us. We're here with a quick outline of the strategic plan, a short presentation for you today. Our plan is to have the full report for you for the March 19th meeting. So it looks like our timetables are aligned very well to present that at the next meeting for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Poland, as Beatrice mentioned, and I've been facilitating drafting the strategic plan between your staff as well as our firm. I just wanted to provide you with a quick outline and update. As many of you are familiar with developing strategic plans, there's different approaches. The approach that was taken with the strategic plan is more of an iterative approach. So at the beginning of this process, our staff worked closely with the authority staff and created a draft. That draft we have completed. But as we continued with our interviews and everyone's participation on the board in those interviews, we developed recurring themes. We went back to the draft and we keep reworking the draft based on the outcomes of our process, including the workshop that everyone was a part of. Just mind me, I'm looking at my notes since we don't have a presentation on the monitor. But as part of that workshop, we had already established in the first draft the stakeholder collaboration, the funding, and public health. But the board recognized those as the 3 pillars. So working with staff, we had already developed objectives that fall under each of those pillars. And that has been reflected in the draft with edits. What was new was the governance section, and that is something that we are currently working on developing with objectives, and we are hoping to speak more with staff and getting milestones outlined as well. So under the recommended strategies for governance, we're looking at board engagement and strategic focus, as well as role clarity and alignment, as well as governance stability and continuity, and member value and external credibility.
Extremely timely right now.
Yes. Also outlined in stakeholder collaboration, we have to lead regional alignment around shared initiatives, which is very important of the authority as the convener. Institutionalized community-based implementation oversight. I mean, today we had a wonderful presentation from Vector Control the Mosquito District, and they are just one of those stakeholders that we need to, as the authority, need to relay what they're experiencing up to a higher level. Align with federal restoration and leadership. Advance the authority as a regional partner agency within the state conservancy. And I just want to thank Joe. He's been part of this process. We've also interviewed him, and he was also at the workshop, so we appreciate your feedback in the strategic plan as well. We also integrate community and tribal oversight into all decision making, build public understanding of the sea's importance and complexity, and engage policy and civic leaders through targeted communications. Stakeholder collaboration is going to be key for the authority moving forward. In order for the authority to move forward, there needs to be funding. So the recommended strategies is to advocate for federal funding and policy alignment, leverage federal and state investment more strategically, secure long-term funding, multi-decade commitments, and ensure transparency, equity, and local control in conservancy operations. Public health. One of the things that were mentioned today were the Colorado River policy. That is a recommended strategy outlined in the strategic plan, and that is to support future Colorado River policy with all the members on the board and what's in the best interest for the region. Develop project readiness and implementation support, and deliver tangible community benefits. Drive local support and coordination, which is going to be key as well as the convener of the Salton Sea. Drive visionary and practical preferred plan, and establish and operationalize a framework of insurance. So as I mentioned before, we are near the finish line. We have received everyone's feedback. We have made those updates to the draft. All that's left is for our team to work with staff to finalize the strategic plan and bring it to the board for final adoption, and we could do that at the next meeting. And I just want to thank everyone's time and effort that has gone towards this plan.
And welcome your new board member.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Any questions regarding the outline? Don't think the presentation made
I'm sorry we didn't get a presentation on the monitor, but.
Well, you mentioned that they may want direction. What direction are you looking for?
Mainly, I think on the governance section, you know, we had talked about maybe opening up to other members. Those are the things that I think the board itself could really provide direction on the governance section. Staff could kind of help develop those milestones and those timelines, but really we're looking for feedback from the board itself because you guys know what's best and what's needed.
The plan was, I think, that they're going to come back at the next meeting because that's when they'll be ready to have the presentation
Like
and
a
a full report, and then that's when we would provide.
No, I know, but Gina mentioned when we were talking a second ago
About direction.
Yeah,
Well, I think
that's what I'm asking. What is that direction?
I believe you didn't know you were going to be presenting at this meeting today, did you?
No, they did.
We
Did you know you were?
the staff has a draft that we're working through some
Yeah,
of their
and
changes
I
we're
was-
waiting for.
Right.
There were two versions, and I'm frantically trying to access the version. But I do have the presentation that I can make available to the board.
But it
and
was
I'll put it
also
on the
unclear
website.
to me if you were going to be presenting at this particular meeting. Did you know that you were? Okay, I'm just checking.
No, it was unclear, but we were prepared.
Well,
Okay, there you go.
I know, I'm still confused on, the comment was made that you guys may be looking for
I made the
direction
comment,
today. So
yes.
what is that direction? A conversation obviously happened about needing some sort of direction on something. So I'm just trying to clarify, what is that direction that you needed before the finalization of the next meeting in March?
I don't think
The direction's coming from the staff. They have a version for review of some of the strategic planning. We're waiting on that. We just wanted to update you that this is the outline of the plan you're going to receive. And we're waiting for that feedback to finalize the plan.
Okay.
Madam Chair? So is it possible that and maybe you said it already and I just didn't interpret it or understood you, but is it possible that we receive the report, read through it before the next meeting, and obviously provide you our thoughts that can help in putting together, let's say, the final draft, I guess, with recommendations or options for us to consider, using our thoughts from the fact that we actually had a chance to review the document.
So you would like a copy, Manny, then, of
That's
their
correct.
strategic plan before the meeting, like
That's
more
correct.
than 24 hours in advance?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, got it.
Like today.
Yes. Uh-huh. Perfect.
We will submit that to you 10 days before the meeting. Does that
Okay.
I think that, yeah,
That should be plenty of time.
I think that's great.
be perfect? We could do that.
And will
Yeah,
that be coming from you, or will that be coming from Patrick?
We will need to be in touch with Patrick to kind of
Okay.
finalize the plan
Yeah.
as well as the milestones that need to be reached. As soon as we get some meetings on the books to finalize that draft, then at that point it would be ready to move forward to the board. I'm sure in the agenda
I'll
packet.
distribute the information.
Excellent. Okay.
So
Thank
just
you.
make sure staff that you guys follow up on them to give them the direction they need to finalize it.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Sooner rather than later.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Has this PowerPoint been circulated?
This is the PowerPoint. Yeah. If there are any particular, there were two separate sets
If it
that were
hasn't,
distributed.
can
One
you
was
just-
a Mac.
Can you send it?
And we were unable to access the Mac, and then there was this link further down that we were able to access that had the PowerPoint.
Yeah, next time that happens, just go ahead and
So-
let
so
us
we're-
know.
we're
We'll make sure.
frantically trying to pull it up. So if there's a particular slide that you would like to reference for comment purposes right now, we could pull that up either if that's helpful.
I think we're running out of time, Patrick. We're going to do this on the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank
So
you for your
just
time.
Send us the
Email it
presentation.
to us. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
send
you.
us the presentation.
Send it to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to project-related activity, the USAC, the feasibility study, which we talked about a little bit.
We
right?
did. We covered that
Okay.
in great detail at our last meeting, Madam President. And all I would report this time is since then we've had several different, the CNRA has held several different public outreach events, one in Imperial and the other in the Coachella Valley, where the Corps actually was physically present, well attended, and I think it was helpful. We are scheduling a rollout presentation of the final four project types, which will be in the next month or so. The date has not been finalized. We're working on the entire plan for rolling that out. There'll be a comprehensive program that we're working with CNRA's Outreach and Engagement Committee and the Corps to develop that plan. But that's all I would say about that. I don't know if, Joe, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add in that regard.
Just real quick, want to extend appreciation to SSA staff, which includes Lisa and Lowry as well, for helping with this process. Really want to make sure that we're doing some pre-briefing too on the process of the feasibility study, because we felt like that was something that was really well received in our meetings in December, and then kind of set the stage to be able to talk more substantively about where the Army Corps folks are consolidating their efforts, and great appreciation to them as well. They're working incredibly hard.
Thank you.
And if I could just add, and that'll save us time later, I mentioned it before, but we were successful at securing the funding that the Corps needs to do the work that Patrick and Joe were talking about in FY26. So that should be enacted by the Senate today. It was passed the House. So that's another $1.76 million. That was an appropriations request that was submitted by the authority and managed by the authority to secure its successful provision.
And what that does, in addition, the state, there have been ongoing discussions because the state has fully invested in this effort. In fact, their commitments have advanced beyond the federal commitments. And there's been discussions about using state funds in advance of federal funds being available. But we think that when we get these appropriations at the federal level, that'll stretch that discussion out and not make that a priority.
Yep. And the total amount that the authority has secured for this work is $7.1 million through our advocacy efforts.
Federal plus the state's contribution.
You're gonna make everybody have to use the restroom.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Slow
Can we move on to the North Lake?
Sure. At our last meeting, we discussed the winding down of the Riverside County effort to develop the Greater North Lake project as a result of the technical and financial and other analyses of that project, and because of the work that the state is doing in the North Lake wetlands. We collectively agreed that there were great efficiencies in combining those two and accomplishing what was originally set out in Prop 68 through a consolidated planning and implementation effort through the North Lake Wetlands Project. The state, and I don't know what the specific terms are, Joe, you can help me, but the state has a burden that they cannot account for those funds of the remaining Prop 68 funds, approximately 17 million. We are being informed, unless we ostensibly fully relinquish control of those funds. And what we have been trying to do is craft an MOU or a resolution to create a framework that would allow that to happen, and at the same time respect the authority's participation and role as was contemplated by the original grant, by AB 71, by the MOU, and by our long-standing good faith collaboration on the feasibility study. We were hopeful that we could get a resolution for the board today, but we weren't able to get that language in place. So I did draft a memo and requested that the board provide authorization to staff to negotiate and implement between now, I think January 31st is the state's deadline to secure those funds for project purposes, an arrangement whereby those funds can be successfully used and at the same time preserve our participation and our objectives in the utilization of those funds. It does require the approval of the projects committee before the authority staff would sign off on that. There is a memo in your board. I distributed it this morning, and it is on our website. And I think Joe might have some additional comments.
I'm happy to take questions from board members on this item. Just would broadly want to note that because we have our existing state restoration project that's currently clocked at about 1,300 acres, but we would like to, as General Manager O'Dowd said, expand the scope to include the pilot project area, and then also see if we can expand the project to get closer to 2,000 acres in this first phase. One development since we had our conversation last November is that the governor's budget, which was proposed last week, includes $30 million in proposed funding for specifically recreational components of our state priority projects, which would include this project in the north. And this is flexible funding that can be deployed to achieve the objectives that we've heard over and over again discussed at these authority meetings about the importance of facilitating public recreation. It's actually more flexible for supporting those uses than this Prop 68 funding, and we feel like that's a really, really important distinction, and just want to recognize my boss, Governor Newsom, for his recognition of that and understanding that this is really, really important for our projects. But we need to have the budget. We need to know what budget we're working with up front so that our folks can draft the appropriate contracting documents, because these documents are hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages long. They take a long time to develop. And so if the budget is constantly changing, it just, it's not achievable from our team's perspective. So really want to try to have, the support of all of you to move forward and consolidate this funding so that we can grow this project and implement it together as partners.
Joe, so we have 17 million that's left over, right? Like 17.5, I think. And so you want it back to increase your budget for a number of potential projects, or you already have the project identified? That's the project you were kind of describing right now?
Yeah, so, and we talked a little bit about this at the November meeting, but we've got our North Lake Wetlands project, which is about 1,300 acres of land adjacent to the pilot project area. And so our thought there is that because the state are moving that contract through our procurement and project delivery processes, it would be possible for us to expand the scope of our project to include the pilot project area and seek to implement a project in cooperation and collaboration with the Salton Sea Authority that seeks to accomplish the objectives that were set out by the initial conversations that have taken place to date on the pilot project as much as we can, as is feasible, informed by the geotech, the permitting, and the budget. But we think that we can identify, as General Manager O'Dowd said, a lot of efficiencies by working together to implement a broader project using our funding, the authority's funding, and then also if we can get the proposed funding that the governor proposed in last week into the budget, using a portion of that funding as well to, again, advance something that implements the habitat restoration and public recreation benefits that I know we all talk so much about and care so much about.
Do you need a motion on that?
Yep.
Did you get a chance to read this, Joe? This letter? I mean, is it sufficient for your purposes?
So
What's a blank check?
that's not true. I would just say what would be really helpful from the board, just reacting to what I've read in the memo, is that very supportive of I think it's 5 action items that are on the second page of the memo in terms of the actions. But what we really need is this plan that's talked about in the memo. We need that ASAP. So if I could make a suggestion on timeline, what would be really helpful is if the authority board could commit to providing input on that plan, the language of that plan, over the next 2 weeks. I can work with General Manager O'Dowd to submit the board of directors a draft by February 1st. And perhaps the board could consider taking action on that draft at the February 19th meeting when you're considering the other comment letter that was discussed. So you have a couple weeks to review. Is that a timeline that folks think could work?
That's very convenient.
Dominoes.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
The timeline seems fair. It looks like Joe, and appreciate that. I guess the only point I want to make is I understand why we're doing this. Obviously, the studies came back and it was going to cost quite a bit more, and we weren't expecting all that. And obviously, we still need to work on wetlands, and I get that. But I guess what I'm asking for is some form of balance. The community there, which is directly impacted, that lives there, are not necessarily prioritizing wetlands over recreation. They know it's important. Obviously, everyone cares for the environment. But for those that are directly impacted and have been for years, are more concerned with public health issues, for example, and issues dealing with dust that may stem from storms, windstorms, or what have you, and that coming from the receding shoreline, while at the same time wanting to ensure that there's more activity for the residents when it comes to recreational opportunities, walkways, things of that nature. So I hope that this does not mean, once again, the goalpost will move, and let's say a majority of funds goes towards wetlands versus recreation. I'd rather see a 50-50 spread, or once again, ask the community what they'd like to see. If potentially folks might not believe what I'm saying here right now, and that's okay. But that's what I'm hoping will happen at the end of the day, Joe. And I think that message needs to be loud and clear. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of folks in the community that are going to be really happy. And they're going to be disheartened again. And they're going to probably be up in arms, potentially. But once again, they're going to say nothing got done for the community in this case. It's for the environment once again, and that's okay too, but it's a different goal. It's a different reality.
And if I could just briefly respond 100%, and that's actually a huge reason why the funding that was proposed in the budget last week was done so because it complements the funding that's been already made available for habitat restoration projects and has restrictions around making sure that that money is spent on habitat restoration. But this funding that's proposed for public recreation would ensure that the ideas and proposals that many of us have heard over and over from the community, wanting more opportunities to access the sea and seeing projects that balance those co-benefits, that's what this funding would do. And that's why we're really excited about this proposal, and we hope to have your support. And obviously, we want to continue to move forward with the climate bond funding last year and the implementation of that in a broader project and what that could achieve. So point well taken, and look forward to working with you and the rest of the board to hopefully make that happen.
Okay, so are we good with that direction then? To have something that else, another letter that we can look at on the 19th of February, yes. After Valentine's. Okay. Moving on. Wait, talking about Desert Shores now?
The only thing I would report on Desert Shores, I talked about it last month. We were working with the Corps. We are working with the Corps on modifying the grant to utilize those funds for design purposes. We did get an extension because it was scheduled to expire. We got a 90-day extension. We found out 2 days ago that it does not require higher levels of review and approval. And so as soon as I get the remaining set of documents in on Friday, we should be on a fast track to finalizing this amendment and hopefully designing a shovel-ready project that Joe can bring his checkbook and we can get done.
I love this macho checkbook you got.
Yay. Okay, moving on. Did we cover everything for Lisa for federal?
I think Lisa's worn out.
Okay, and so moving on to state cruise strategies. Is Nick online? Okay.
There he is.
President Dr. Nick Romo, Cruise Strategies. I'll be brief in my update. The State Senate and Assembly returned on January 5th for the second year of the session. And they were off to a fast start. They inaugurated Senator Monique Limon from Santa Barbara as the new leader of the Senate. She represents Santa Barbara, Ventura, San Luis Obispo counties, and she holds the distinction as the first Latina to hold the position. She has been on a state legislator since 2016, so well seasoned, and we look forward to meeting with her. Just a quick reminder: last year, Proposition 4 was passed by the voters in 2024, and last year the legislature appropriated about $170 million specifically for the Salton Sea restoration plan, and then the legislature appropriated about $150 million of those funds to the CNRA. This year, last week, the governor proposed his budget, and he proposed to use about $30 million of the funding for DWR to support nature-based solutions. This is something that we're watching closely. We continue our efforts to bring funding to the authority through Prop 4 and through the general fund, and we'll be bringing back to you a budget request and a plan to work with Director Shea and the team, as well as our legislative delegation, Senator Padilla, and Assembly Member Jeff Gonzalez. So we've started those discussions this year with them. I would look forward to having them, and I think finding a path forward for both the Conservancy and the authority, finding the funding streams and making sure that there's no duplicative work, while also making sure that the authority continues to engage the community, particularly in relation to the feasibility study, is critical. And so I think these conversations have been positive over the last few months, and you'll be hearing a lot more from us in our conversation with your state lawmakers. Happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Can we move on to Miguel? Is he on next?
I saw him on the Jumbotron.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Fellow members of the board. Just brief update on behalf of the Salton Sea Management Program. As it was mentioned, we had a couple meetings last December before the end of the year for an end of the year recap on our program. We shared a lot of good information with residents of Coachella, residents of Raleigh. As it was mentioned by General Manager O'Dowd, both meetings were well attended. Also, thank you to General Manager O'Dowd for participating at those meetings. We shared about our projects, but also shared or invited our partners at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to share more about the Salton Sea feasibility study and what the process looks like and kind of like the next steps for this process. So it was a great way to end the year. We connected with surprisingly a good amount of folks that were attending our meetings for the first time. So we had the opportunity to connect with them and for them to get acquainted with a good amount of team members of the SSMP. We had a few folks from our team down in the region and share more about the projects and the information that we had. So very productive, well attended. Also shout out to Audubon for providing the tamales for the evening. So that was great. So yeah, just wanted to give you a quick recap on that. And moving on to this year, we actually were able to hit the ground running with our first tour at the SEH, which happened last week with a group of students from Desert Mirage High School. They are part of a Green Academy program, and Mr. Krebs is the one in charge of this cohort. And the group was able to be there for some of them for the second time. We had this group help us with some of the installation of artificial burrows at the project site a couple of years ago. So about 3 or 4 students were there for the second time, and I was really impressed just by their reaction. Like, kind of, they got that before and after comments, so that they were really excited to see the big difference in the project and to hear them that, like, the positive things that they thought about the project. That was really empowering. So we will continue to host more of those tours in the future with different groups. In fact, we have one coming up this weekend on Saturday. We are offering a tour as part of the Salton Sea Bird Festival. And if you're familiar with that, it's a great event that happens early in the year with multiple stops around the Salton Sea. And this year we signed up to offer a tour at the SEH project. The registration form, however, it's already full. We have a full bus, a bit more than 50 participants will be joining us on Saturday morning. I assume there will be some great pictures to show on our social media and our newsletters, so I'll share more of that then. So yeah, we were hitting the ground running with this different engagement opportunities. We also have some other public meetings in the horizon, which I'll be reporting back in the future, and also, of course, our annual report in the month of March. So the beginning of the year is looking pretty good, and hope to continue the collaboration with the authority and its member agencies for a great 2026. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Miguel. Have fun this weekend. Salton Sea Festival, Bird Festival, everybody go. Oh, Honey Festival in Westmoreland too. It's going to be a busy weekend. Yeah. Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate it. Mr. Arroyo, you're up. Tell us how many people have been visiting. My drive today was beautiful and perfect.
That's great to hear. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the great diverse representation of the Big Ten Conference here today. Joe from Ohio State, Joe from University of Michigan, alma mater dear, the University of Southern California. Nice. Fight on, Supervisor Kelly.
Let's AC over here.
Right on. You know, the weather is nice right now. Great time to be out. We are starting to see the initial sprouts of wildflowers throughout the desert. I'll speak specifically for my 5 desert state parks. It's looking good. Too early to tell what kind of bloom it's going to be, but it's looking great out there. This weekend, the Sea and Desert Interpretive Association, our formal partner, is hosting the annual Bird Festival, expanding on the 2 sites, one at the Salton Sea State Recreation Area, the other at the Sunny Bono National Refuge, to include the Salton Sea Management Program's SCH, Species Conservation Habitat. So it's great to hear. A lot of preparations goes into that. We expect a few hundred people out at the recreation area. I'm sure there'll be a lot more people at the other two sites. I hear that the tour bus is full at the SCH, so it's great to hear. In addition to that, we are finalizing the plans. We have our dates set for the Salton Sea State Recreation Area General Plan community meetings in February 18th at Bombay Beach. We're generating flyers right now and getting that, but this is the first public announcement of those two meetings, one at February 18th at Bombay Beach Community Center, and the next night, February 19th, at the North Shore Yacht Club. March 11th, we're targeting a stakeholder meeting. Look out for a notice on that for the SSA. What else? We completed the pedestrian walkway connecting the visitor center to the jetty, just short of a mile. It took a long time, but it's finally complete. It had taken some pretty good damage over the years, 50 plus years. Next month, we're scheduled to finish the asphalt rehab at the visitor center parking lot. It badly needed it. It's a long time coming for that improvement. We continue to do outreach, most recently with the Desert Recreation District, and we continue to partner not just in the north area, but also in the south with the Aspire program down in Imperial County last week. So our crew is very active, and we look for other opportunities to engage, not just at our parks, but out in the community. I can entertain any questions at this time.
Just if I may make a quick inquiry, the Scorpion Adventures, when are those coming up? Or the Night Scorpion Adventures?
Yeah, those are great. We
any dates on those?
We don't have dates right now, but we kind of feel for the popularity of some of the programs. We had an astronomy night close to the end of the year we had about 75 visitors at Ocotillo Wells SVRA. Great time to be out. So we definitely looking for more opportunities. So I'll ask our staff to figure out when we have our next scorpion hunt. They're great if you haven't been. Great opportunity to see scorpions. So
I have my own black light, so
yeah. Yes.
Cool. Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Really good. We always appreciate you coming to our meetings. Is Alan Pace online? Salton Sea Action Committee? He was. I gotta hurry up.
I didn't see him, Madam President.
Okay. Then we're up to you, Mr. O'Dowd.
I think we have said enough.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Everybody's ready for lunch. Okay, at that, I declare this meeting adjourned.
There you go.
12:22.
Recording stopped.
Listen, do you have my right contact info?